I seen pictures. I heard about them from guys who fished it at those days, but I never really was in on. They would come in like a wave, I understand. At 4 in the afternoon, you would see them off and working right towards the beach. You could set your clock by them.
I didn't myself, but I knew that guys in front of the lighthouse were catching. Maybe I'd go out and I'd hear like a couple of days before they had some pollock. And these pollock used to run like 30 pounds. Some big pollock that were in there. And they told me the pollock would fight like anything. But I never experienced a pollock out there in Montauk.
Jerry Bernard one time caught he caught a codfish on a yellow darter under the lighthouse. And I think that was 1967. I've seen pollock, a few pollock caught. I never caught, but I've seen a few pollock caught.
Pollock was a fish that we didn't seem to see them anywhere but here. And they used to come in at an hour before dark, and they'd churn the water up out there, feeding on the bait. And then they'd move in, and they push the bait right up onto the shore. You would eventually, at the end of the night, the pollock were 3 feet, 4 feet in the water. But it was first come, first serve, and whoever could cast the furthest caught the first fish.
As far as I know, pollock and the surf at Montauk go back decades. When I was going out in the 50s, I knew that they caught pollock, but I never bothered to look for them. I was looking for bass. And not that I was catching a lot of bass either, you know, I was still learning, but I knew they caught pollock. And then one year, in fact, it was 1958, 58 or 59, no, 59 I guess it was. I went out one November day, it was late November, and I pulled into the lot in Montauk, and there were only 2 or 3 cars there. And it was a foggy, dismal day, no wind, flat, calm water, but very foggy. So I got dressed and I walked down to the beach. The pathway brought me down and back of Weakfish Rock, and I saw two guys on Jones Reef, and they didn't seem to be doing anything. And I looked to my right, down beyond the bluff, and I see a crowd of guys. There was a woman in there mixed with them. There were about 7 or 8 of them. And they were all fishing close, and they're casting, and I could see the 2 of them were into fish. So I was going to walk down there, and all of a sudden, out of the fog, I see a bunch of gulls coming, and I could see fish. So I walked straight out in the water, and I put a tin on, threw it out. Bang, I got this fish on. Hell of a fight. Got him in. When I got him about 10 feet away, I thought it was a bluefish. Because he kind of looked like a bluefish. Didn't look like, there's no stripes on this guy. And I brought him in, and it was the first pollock that I got. And it gave you a good fight. And the nice thing about pollock, they didn't have the dorsal fin like a bass has, so you don't have to worry about those fins getting your hand. And they had no teeth like a bluefish. And they were a lot of fun. And that was in 58, I guess. 58, I guess. And we had them around pretty good until 63. They would be there in the spring, usually in browns and the light. And in the fall, they would come in, right after, say, the 1st of November. And they'd come in and be on the north side. Yeah, you sometimes get them in North Bar, sometimes on the reef, sometimes under the light. In the fall, sometimes they'd even be in Kings and Browns. They moved fast, the schools would move fast, and they would drive the bait. You'd see them pirouetting up on top, and the gulls would be excited and balling up on the pollock. Schools were pretty thick. You throw a tin out, you got it into the school, you have one large sidewash hook on the back of that tin. A couple of cranks and you'd be into a pollock. If you drop that pollock, another one would pick it up. They weren't always in close, but the emphasis should be on that they would start at daybreak in the morning. As soon as the sun came up, they'd quit. In the evening, it would be sunset till dark. And there would occasionally be pollock taken at night. And I know that the fellow used to be in the club, Fritz Huben, that took a 25 on North Bar one night on a darter. I took a much smaller one under the light one night. So you did get a few at night, and there were 3 guys in the club that were under the light one night, and they were just standing there. Nothing was going on, and there was one guy fishing, and the guy grunted and got in, set his hook and got into this fish. And he had a hell of a time getting the fish in. And when he got it below the rocks and he put his light on, he cursed. He thought he had his 50 bass. He had a pollock that was in the high 30s. And this guy was a regular. You know, this guy was a good fisherman. And he thought he had his 50, and it was a pollock. I think it was 38 or 39 pounds. So they were a lot of fun. They were fun to fish for, and they gave you a hell of a battle. I had one morning, I think I was in 59, I went down to North Bar. This was also in November. In fact, I think it was the 24th of November. And there were 2 guys down there fishing. It was a cold morning, but it was pretty calm. And these were local guys. And we got a school of pollock ran across the bar. It was heavily overcast that morning. We had the pollock for 2 hours. And you look towards Montauk Point, and you could pick out the schools, one school after the other. And you could pick them out because you'd see a ball of gulls balled up under those pollock. And you'd wait about 15 or 20 minutes for another school to go over. And they move fast. So you made your cast, bring one in, and get another one. And we had those pollock for 2 hours. They weren't real big pollock, 5 to 10 pounds, but they were fun. And then around 63, it started to peter out, and the last decent pollock that I heard of was Joe Sanfratello got one about 13 pounds in 69. But the only thing we can figure is that the draggers wiped out that segment of the pollock population that used to come into Montauk in November. Nice thing about pollock too is that they would last sometimes into December. And of course, bass and blues were a memory by then. So you had something if you wanted to freeze your fingertips off for.